Great, and you guys can see my screen? Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thank you all for being here today. Today we are going to go over the how to and how not to use AI in the college application process. Before we get into that, we're just going to introduce ourselves real quick, or we're going to go over the flow of the presentation. So we're going to go over some of the AI tells. So some of the common things that we see in applications that kind of give us that hint that AI is being used, what some of the policies are across the field, the ethical implications of using AI in this process, the do's and don'ts of it, some guiding principles to help you, again, ethically use this tool in your process, some commonly asked questions, and then our closing remarks. And should we have time, we can open up the floor to any questions that you guys might have. So just to introduce ourselves, my name is Jordan Vaughn. I'm an assistant director of undergraduate admissions at the George Washington University down in Washington, D.C.
And I'm Rachel Eves. I'm an admissions counselor here at Hood College in Frederick, Maryland.
Cool. Rachel, I'll let you take this one.
Cool. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our AI tells. I've read over 500 applications this season, and these were kind of the things that I came up with that maybe I need to run this student through an extra plagiarism detector. So we're looking for machinic blandness. So when I'm reading an essay, it just sounds like I'm looking at paint dry. It's boring. There's not really any substance to it. Um, so that's one of the first tells, and then repetition. So often we're seeing that AI is using the same meaning to a sentence over and over and over again, just saying it in different ways. So um, rather than it being overly, what you would consider with your essays um, to kind of be your own, it's just kind of saying the same thing over and over again rather than walking through your story. And then my favorite is the $5 words. So, in reading these applications, you start to get used to how high school students write when we're looking with 16, 17, 18-year-olds. You guys don't always really know the proper context to use these really big words. Or you're just kind of throwing them out there and they work, but I'm like, there's no way that you know what this word means. They didn't teach you this word in your English class, so on. Um, Kind of similar to the machinic blandness, we're looking for empty sentences. So these sentences that might be really long, but actually end up saying nothing at all. So keep that in mind. And then overly formal. We're not, when we see the thous and the shalls and the things like that, as if you're reading like the King James version of the Bible. That's pretty much right away that we can tell that you've been using AI in your essay. But also when you're writing your essay, you know, you also are writing in different sections of your application as well. So we can tell when, your essay is super, super formal, but when you were talking about your extracurriculars, you didn't even really know how to use a comma. So keep that in mind.
And next, there are some policies that can be found throughout either the Common App or some different universities within Maryland. So the Common App does state that fraud may occur in the following circumstances without limitation: submitting plagiarized essays or other written or oral material, or intentionally misrepresenting as one's own original work another person's thoughts, language, ideas, expressions, or experiences, or the substantive content or output of an artificial intelligence platform, technology, or algorithm. So just remember that, especially with using AI in this process, specifically the essay process, that the AI is gathering information that already exists out there, other people's ideas that have been shared on the internet and things like that. So they are not the same original thought that you can come up with in your mind. And the Common App has that really clear policy stating that. UMD College Park also has a policy in relation to AI, which I won't read the entire thing for this one, but it is something that if you are caught using this or suspected of using this, it can send you to the Office of Student Conduct, which when you're in college, that is a place that you never really want to go. That means something bad has happened and somebody suspects you of doing something wrong. And so any chance that you can have to avoid ever interacting with that office, you want to take those precautions. So it is going into the policy, and we have a few more examples here as well. So Stevenson University, they also have their policy about cheating, lying, plagiarism, unauthorized use of artificial intelligence, and things like that are also kind of under that violation of academic integrity. And I want you to note here that it says the unauthorized use of artificial intelligence. There are going to be some courses that do utilize AI. Even anecdotally, I'm in graduate school, and one of my classes, we had an AI assignment, which we were asked to use this programming. But we also have very clear policy stating that if it is not that assignment, we are not to be using that technology on any of our written work. So you will know when you are supposed to be using this technology, but otherwise, it is very clear that you should not be. And then UMBC, in the same vein, sees it as kind of that cheating, fabrication, plagiarism, kind of those buzzwords of the do not do's within college or even the high school process. You never want to be accused of any of these things, because again, that can get you to that misconduct or that student conduct office. And that's just a really bad spot to be in. And then the last few, Towson University and Salisbury University both mentioned this academic integrity, this utilization of the AI, is presenting the work as your own when it is not your own. That again puts you in that same category of the cheating, plagiarism, and things like that, and can get you sent to those integrity, student conduct like offices. So schools are definitely implementing policies about this work. And if they have it as a policy for their current students, it is certainly something that we are keeping in mind for the application process as well, because that's the first glimpse we have into you as a student at our universities. And if you're already in a gray area violating our academic policies from the application process, then ultimately it means you might not be a good fit for our university. So you just want to make sure you're giving yourself that shot and sharing your work, and knowing these policies, whether you are an applicant to the school or a current student at that school. You want to make sure you know those academic integrity policies and where your school stands on AI usage.
Before I jump into the ethical implications, I also want to note that, I had an interesting case with a recommendation letter that I received from a teacher this year, where the teacher actually spoke about um, the students' issues with cheating and not having work as their own and plagiarism. So keep that in mind. We do have ways of knowing when things might not be working out in high school the way that you'd like if you're using AI in your classes or anything like that. So keep that in mind when you're requesting recommendation letters or anything like that. But let's jump into the ethical implications. So, AI is something that has immense potential, which brings us to a critical need for caution. So, you need to keep in mind that it is something that can help you tremendously, but it is also something that can hurt you tremendously. Um, and we're moving on to issue two. Plagiarism. Plagiarism, like Jordan said, is something that will end you up into the student conduct office. And in some cases, you can be dismissed from your university that you worked so hard to get into, for plagiarism, not just with AI, but for other things as well. So I know in our applications at Hood, we have a plagiarism detector that we run all of your essays through and everything like that. And it comes back with how much of it might be plagiarized. And then you'll find that whatever academic system you're using when you come to school, whether it's Canvas, Blackboard, whatever, schools use tools like Turnitin, and these tools have found to actually have a 98% success rate in detecting plagiarism. So that includes when you're running your papers through Grammarly to make sure that they're, proper grammar. Turnitin is going to detect that as plagiarism, and professors are going to see that. They'll see your edits and things like that. So keep that in mind. And then we're moving on to issue number three, looking at your lack of authenticity. So AI often has, see some stuff in the chat there. AI often has, incorrect information that's not always up to date. So it's drawing off of information that's in its database that it might have learned when it was looking at other searches or information that other people had given it when they were searching for things. So first thing, the information that you're getting from there might be incorrect. But also, when we're looking at applications, we want to know your unique experiences. It's called a personal statement for a reason. Um, you may be super smart, but you're not an AI computer. So we're looking at what makes you you. And as much as you're figuring out if schools are a good fit for you, we're figuring out if you're going to be a good fit at our school as well.
So the effectiveness of using AI in this process, does using AI in the college process really work? So again, kind of looking at this, the actual application process rather than the maybe college search process, there's a lack in quality of AI work, and it typically produces those very standard and basic answers, and it lacks that human touch. We kind of touched on this a little bit during the AI tells, but there's a certain voice that you have that AI is never going to be able to replicate, and we want to hear from you. It demonstrates that lack in critical thinking. We don't want to know that you're able to put a really good prompt into an AI software. We want to know, what are you thinking from the prompts provided by Common App or Coalition or any of those other college application platforms. There can be misinformation, like Rachel was just saying. It's pulling from the internet, and unfortunately, not everything on the internet is something that you can trust as to be 100% factual. And so, if you don't know a piece of information that AI is putting in there, you won't be able to know that it's incorrect, but maybe the person reading your application will. Again, that lack in quality, it's the very basic work, and it lacks, again, that human touch. Again, we are looking for who you are in this process, and we don't want you to give up that chance to tell us who you are for a quick shortcut. And then again, that lack of emotional depth. It could be one of the most grammatically sound essays we've ever read, but when it lacks that content and that voice and your personal experiences, then it's not really doing what you want that essay to do. Something that I like to remind students is that the essay is really your chance to tell us who you are. It is the one piece of the application that you're in total control over. Your activities are what they are, your grades are what they are, but this is where you really get to show us your voice and tell us who you are. And so we just don't want you giving up that chance to either be flagged for plagiarizing and have your applications marred that way, or just doing something that lacks that personal touch to who you are. We want to know you.
All right, we're going to jump into our do's and don'ts. My favorite part of this slide is the do's. So we're looking for a college list builder. AI is really, really cool in a sense that you can take and you can say, I'm looking for a liberal arts school in a small town that has this major, this extracurricular, and so on. So you can really customize a list of schools if you don't really know where to start, that will give you kind of some groundwork to go off of. Which I think is really nice. I wish that I would have had that when I was looking at schools. It would have made my college search a lot easier. You can even put in a distance band as well. If I want to be about an hour from home. I live in this city and I'm looking for this, this, and this. So, that's a really, really great and efficient way to use AI for your college search, since the college search can be super overwhelming. Um, Looking for programs in campus researcher. Instead of jumping to Google, what is the best social work program in the state of Maryland? Some schools will pay a little bit more to have their name come up first on Google. So when you're looking at AI, I'm looking for the best social work program that's an hour from my house, that has a campus just like this. Again, just like the college builder or college list builder. You can go through and really make a niche list of exactly what you're looking for and give you something to go off of to get started. Um, when we're looking at your essays, brainstorm, refine, and edit. So when we're looking at your essays, you don't really know where to start. I think Common App gives you 5 prompts, and there's one that you can kind of write about whatever you want. The other 5 are just your generic personal essay statements. It's hard to talk about yourself. It's hard to, figure out what you want to say without sounding too braggy, without, really overindulging in things about yourself. So use AI to be able to come up with certain ideas to write about. Maybe a catchy hook. We're looking for something like an essay that we're going to remember. Um, I can give you an example of one that I really remember. It was a student that was talking about whether the milk in cereal is a sauce, a condiment, or a soup. And I thought that was the most insane essay ever. I remember it obviously. But we're looking for things like that. So if you're able to kind of use AI in a way that is going to help you and not hurt you by brainstorming, refining, um, and then also editing your essay. Do that. The other thing to make note of is if you're going to take and you're going to copy and paste your whole essay and put it into that AI, there's a very good chance that some plagiarism detectors will flag your whole essay as being AI, even if you went and you wrote it yourself and you just ran it through ChatGPT or whatever AI software you're using. So you have to be really, really careful about that. The best thing for you to do to edit your essay is going to be, attend an essay workshop. I know there's a couple that are happening over this summer with Montgomery County, or you know, utilize us as admission counselors. A lot of us can do pre-reads if we have smaller schools. So send us your essays. We're more than happy to take a look at them and give you some suggestions, or even use your English teachers in school. Some schools might have a study hall period where that's a great time to get some feedback on your essays. So again, proofread with caution when we're looking at your college essays. Do that at your own discretion. For our do's and our don'ts now, we're not looking to copy and paste our entire essay from ChatGPT. It's very, very easy to do that. Like Jordan has, I have had a class in college, my senior year, that we had to use AI to create a blog post. And that was an awesome assignment and really helped me understand AI. But, you know, that's not something that you want to do for every assignment or for your college essay. Um, because then you are going to be flagged, and we are going to see that, and that's going to be a mark against you before you even get here. And then what you also don't want to do is share information that you don't want public, because, you know, AI pulls information from the internet, but it also stores that. It has a memory, which is really cool and also really bad sometimes. I know with ChatGPT, you can sign into it and it will remember your preferences. I do this a lot for recipes. So if I don't want a recipe with eggs, or I don't like eggs, or I can't eat eggs, it's going to remember that, and it's not going to use them in my recipes that I ask for. So AI does remember the things that you put into its system. It's kind of like the same rules that you would follow when they taught you about stranger danger on the internet. Things on the internet last forever. Same with AI. Whatever you're putting in AI, it's going to last forever. So just keep that in mind. And then the last thing we don't want to do is rely solely on it without any additional guidance, like teachers or parents. You know, something that I didn't want to hear when I was in the college process was that my parents knew me best. I think if I would have listened to them the first time, my college search would have been a lot easier. Um, I know that AI does not know me at all. So you need to keep that in mind when you're looking for colleges, when you're doing that college list builder. It's just pulling information that it sees on the internet. AI doesn't know you like your teachers or your parents might.
So some guiding principles when trying to utilize AI during your college process. Understanding the limitations, which we've gone over a number of them, but just to reiterate, the output isn't always current. Like we said, it's pulling from information on the internet, and the internet has been around since, I don't know, the 1990s. And so some of that information out there is quite old and not relevant to today's time. The misinformation and errors that it can do. Again, the information that's on the internet is not always accurate. And sometimes it does make little errors where if you're not proofreading what's being used, you could just submit that and not even realize that there are some glaring issues with that AI produced work. And it's not relational or personal. Remember that there are thousands of you applying to college, and if you're all putting in the same 5 or 6 prompts from Common App into the same software, you're going to get a lot of the same responses back, and those essays are going to look very repetitive to us, and it's going to raise some of those red flags. Now, knowing the acceptable parameters in which it is appropriate to use AI is a really important one. Like Rachel was saying earlier, there are a lot of really great ways that you can utilize the software in your college search process, like brainstorming your college list or brainstorming kind of how to synthesize some of your essay ideas. Understanding a prompt, maybe getting it worded in a different way will help you start to generate those ideas on your own. And again, knowing the policies that the schools you are applying to have is also going to be really important. Do they have a statement from the applicant process through? Is it something that you're noticing in maybe you're applying to a specific major and that specific school has those policies? You just want to be aware of all of that so that you are not violating any sort of policy before you even become a student there. And then lastly, AI should be an assistant, not the CEO. What we mean by that is that this should be a tool to enhance your college search process, not do all of the work for you. You are the driver in this process. You are the leader, you are the CEO, and we want to make sure that you are using this to, again, enhance that process and not take it over for you.
All right, we're looking at some commonly asked questions. So the first one being, what happens if my teacher uses AI to write my recommendation letter? Well, first things first, you know, that's typically a supplemental portion of your application. Some schools it's required, so on. But we know that you're not the one writing your recommendation letter. We can acknowledge that. Um, and oftentimes teachers, they're getting 10, 15, 20 different recommendation letter requests because chances are if they're your favorite teacher, there's someone else's favorite teacher as well. And that doesn't excuse that might be using AI to write your recommendation letter, but um, that's not going to penalize you. Oftentimes at smaller schools, I have the opportunity to reach out to some of these teachers and ask more questions and have a conversation. If I might suspect that this recommendation letter sounds a little bit too generic, or maybe I got one from the same teacher for a different student and it just sounded a little bit too similar. Um, Again, that's not going to penalize you. That's a conversation that we can have with the teacher and learn a little bit more about you. And then do colleges use AI checkers or plagiarism detectors? Yes, yes, we do. We have them in your applications. I just read an application today and it comes up and it says plagiarism detection complete. False. So there wasn't any plagiarism detected in the student's essay that I read today. You're going to find in your classes that because AI is something that is so up and coming and prevalent that higher education might be having a harder time fighting it. So we've learned that we just need to kind of grow along with it and use it as a tool. So like Jordan and I have said, you might find that you'll be using some AI in some of your classes, but that's an authorized use when your professor allows you to use AI. However, when there are assignments when you don't have authorized AI use, there are plagiarism detectors. Turnitin is a very, very popular one that kind of works alongside of Canvas or any of those LMS systems. So yes, there are plagiarism detectors and they will know. Remember that a lot of professors have been teaching for a lot of years and they read a lot of essays before AI came along, so they know exactly what they're looking for. They know the difference in an essay written by a freshman student and an essay written by ChatGPT, or as Chatty as I like to call it. Um, and then can I send you my essay before I submit it to get feedback? I can speak for Hood. Yes, please send me your essay. The summer is a great downtime for us where we don't have as much going on. We're not traveling yet. Being a smaller school, please, please, please send me your essay. I'll be in some of the Montgomery County schools this upcoming fall to do some presentations about essays, meet with you, all sorts of stuff. But yes, please send me your essay. I'm more than happy to look at it. I'm sure Jordan is as well. I know it's a little bit of a crazy season for us, and GW is a little bit of a bigger school. So I'll leave that up to Jordan to decide, but definitely
Yeah.
for some of those smaller schools.
Yeah, GW, unfortunately, we can't read fully written drafts, but we can certainly help in that brainstorming process. If there's a specific paragraph you want me to look at, I do participate in some of those essay workshops. I'll be visiting a lot of your high schools this fall, and I'm happy to take a glance at things. I just can't do a full review of a fully written essay, but I'm happy to still be a resource and another set of eyes to look over whatever you're thinking, whatever you're trying to work through. I can certainly provide that kind of feedback for you.
Yeah, so as you notice, different universities have different policies. So, definitely ask, and it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst we can say is no. But generally, we're going to do our best to help you out because we know this process is stressful and we want to try to do what we can to make it easier for you and be more hospitable. But
Final thoughts. So, my final thoughts on it are you all are very young right now, and this is the time where you are really molding your brains and going on to this next step where you are going to learn how to critically engage with the world and really learn how to formulate those thoughts and opinions and back it up with evidence and things like that. That is kind of the whole impetus of college be is to be elevated as a person. And I just want to make sure that you're all giving yourselves a fair shot into fully developing that thought. And so, again, just reiterating some of the things that we've said, using this as a tool and not as the doer is really the point we want to drive home here. This is your shot to really share who you are. Maybe you want to reinvent yourself in college, and your essay is kind of the first place that you're starting with this, or even building that college list is the first place you're starting this. You have a lot of really great resources in the people around you, whether it is the college reps like me and Rachel, whether it's your college counselors in your high schools, your teachers, maybe you have siblings or friends that have gone to college. You have a lot of really great people around you that those should be your first go-tos. And then again, using AI as that supplement to just strengthen that search. But ultimately, this is your journey, and I want to make sure that you are having that autonomy and advocating for yourself and giving yourself that fair shot to be to really find the place that's going to help you grow the most over the next few years. So yeah.
Yeah, and my final word, 10 times out of 10, your voice is going to beat the bot. I would rather have a messy, imperfect essay written by you than a prim, proper, wonderful essay written by ChatGPT. We're not trying to be mean or difficult when we say, please don't use ChatGPT in your applications. Because again, like I said earlier, as much as you're deciding if schools are a good fit for you, admissions officers like Jordan and I were deciding if you're a good fit for our school when we're reading your application. We want you to succeed and do really, really well. But yeah, 10 times out of 10, your voice is going to beat that bot. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, so I have a question because this came up recently, and Molly, you probably remember this because I think it was in our meeting. Before ChatGPT, we had students, and we still have students who hire people to help them write their essays. So there have been ways to get support before ChatGPT. So, I realize that this is a little bit different, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that if it is a resource that is accessible to you and that's something that you and your family would like to take part in, that it's just another set of eyes, another brain to help you out with this process. Again, 99% of the words in the work should be coming from the student themselves, but it is always okay to get that additional support. I think one of the cool things about ChatGPT and the different AI platforms is that it does make some of this additional help more accessible to more students. Because
Yes.
typically those essay coaches, it comes at a price tag. And so I think that's why we say it can be a way to enhance your college process, and it is allowing more students to be able to have more resources within there. A human resource is always going to be the best one, but plagiarism did not begin with AI and it will not end with AI. And so as always, just making sure that it is the student's voice and the student's work that is being submitted at the end of the day is going to be the biggest point here.
Yeah, and I think something that's important to note about those college coaches or the independent college counselors, they're often working with these students for a large portion of their college search process. So they're taking that time to build that relationship with them and kind of understand who they are as a person. Whereas, ChatGPT doesn't have that human ability or that human aspect. So, I don't consider plagiarism when they're using these like college counselors to help them through the process at all. Again, I agree with Jordan that it's some ChatGPT makes it more accessible, which is nice for those that can't afford it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Okay, are there any other questions? I have found this to be very valuable. Put them in the chat. Or Molly, if you want to, this is a mixed bag on the equity front. Yes, in terms of what Kate is talking about, you can tell when an adult has written an essay on behalf of a student. Absolutely. You can definitely tell. Kids talk very differently than their parents or elders. So I would agree.
Adults use a lot more of those $5 words,
Yes.
and they use them in the correct context.
Most of them do.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. All right, other questions? And if you have any questions about Hood College or GW, I think it would be okay to put those in here as well.
I'm going to stop sharing now just so I can look at the chat as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is the question time.
Yes. And if there are any parents on here, we welcome your questions as well. I'm a bit concerned about using the university policy is applicable to the admissions policy. Okay, that's okay. You can't come off mute, no problem. So we have, I hope you don't mind if I say this, we have somebody from another university who is on here who has done a lot of research, former English teacher, still an English teacher, you once an English teacher always, but who has a lot of experience with AI. So she is also contributing to our chat right now. Georgetown doesn't have an AI policy, but I assume our admissions process wouldn't want AI generated essays.
Right. And I think the point of Jordan and I including the different university policies in the presentation is the point that like a lot of the schools that these students are applying to are these public institutions in Maryland, and a lot of them do have a very similar stance of, we're not very AI friendly right now. We don't want AI. We don't want you using it in your classroom, or we don't want you using it while you're doing your assignments or anything like that. Um, I know that at Hood, we don't have a specific AI policy for our admissions yet. Obviously, we have the plagiarism detector and everything like that. Um, so,
This kind of reminds me, of course, I'm a lot older than anybody on this call probably, but when I grew up, we didn't have calculators. And so we had to learn how to do math. And so when calculators started being a thing, there were teachers that didn't want us to use calculators because it did the math for you. And now everybody uses a calculator for math all the time. So, it's a little bit different, but I mean, tools are going to keep coming our way that are going to make our lives easier, but we don't want to take away the ability to think.
Yeah.
I think
right,
that's the biggest
right.
risk.
Yeah, and I think also kind of the purpose of using the school policy is, again, we are looking for you for admission into that school, which means you would then be bound by those policies. So if you're kind of using AI as a crutch rather than a tool in the college application process, what is that going to look like once you're on the campus? And we don't want you to think that it's okay from the start because you got away with it and then use it in college and, like Rachel was saying, potentially get dismissed from the university. That is the last thing that we want. So it's good to know those policies going in, because those are what you will be bound to if you choose that school in the end.
That's a very good point.
Right. Right. And we do communicate, like, in application notes sections of, hey, the student's admitted, but there's suspicion of using AI in their application, and other offices on campus can see that. So they might be recommended in Hood's case for a general studies class that kind of helps them work through time management and things like that in college. Um, so we do communicate with other offices when we do have, suspected use of AI in applications.
Yeah, and if you want to know, I see Molly's sister works at Anthropic, owner of Claude.ai. Actually, I don't know what that is, sorry. But they disallow AI at all in their application process. So I think if you have any questions about whether or not you're going to, be allowed to use AI, ChatGPT, or any of these things, I can, I have a list of over 700 college admissions reps, and we can talk to them about what their AI policy is. If you're nervous, or, you just want some more information, or go to their website and go into their search and see, what their policy is. It's always best to err on the side of caution, because if it's a school you really want to go to, you want to have the best chance of getting in.
Yeah, and reach out to us counselors. Jordan and I are obviously human. So if you are, like, worried, or you're questioning really anything in the college process, that's what we're here for. This is what we get paid to do, to help you and make this easier. So please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out if you are concerned. Yes, humans for the win, Molly.
No question, no question. All right, are there any other questions? As I said at the beginning, I have recorded this event. I'm actually going to stop the recording while I'm chit-chatting.